Hey folks, got a freebie for you today. This one is for the Kronos users that also use Logic X. Alright, let's check out what I've put together for you. So the Kronos' B3 emulation is okay. It's pretty good, it's not amazing, it's a little bit dated. Now, the vintage B3 that comes with Logic X is actually really good. But you can't control it from the Kronos because it's not an option from the drop-down menu within the plugin that lets you pick what kind of MIDI controller you want to control the plugin with. So I decided to tackle this because the Kronos has a bunch of buttons, knobs, and it has 9 sliders just like a Hammond organ. So without further ado, I present to you the Kronos Vintage B3 map. Ta-da! Okay, so this mapping is comprised of a couple different pieces. First of all, it's a scripter plugin script. There are some smart controls, and then there's the Kronos external MIDI settings. Yeah. Okay, so let me show you some of the tricks that it has in it, and then I will show you how easy it is to add it to your session. So number one, we have controlling the Leslie. The joystick on the Kronos behaves just like the rotary switch on a real Hammond. So check it out. You move it left, and the Leslie goes slow. Flick it to the right, and the Leslie goes fast. If you move it up or down, you turn on the brake. Actually, you toggle it. I stand corrected. So if you flip it up, it's going to get toggled on. If you flip it up again, it's going to get toggled off. Flip it down, it's going to get toggled on. Flip it on down, it's going to get toggled off again. You can also toggle the brake on and off with the sustain pedal, but that's literally a step on the pedal, brake goes on, release the pedal, brake goes off situation. Continuing on with the Leslie control, the 3 rightmost knobs control the Leslie's balance between the horn and drum, the acceleration from slow to fast, and the max rate for the fast speed. Finally, the button below the rightmost knob turns on and off the cabinet emulation. So if you need a dry direct sound, just press that button. It's going to just totally bypass all of the Leslie simulation. Number 2, we have controlling the distortion. The middle 2 knobs control the distortion's tone and the drive. The button below the tone cycles through the distortion types. So if you press this, you can see that it will, it's kind of cycling through the menu options available for the type of distortion that you get. So that makes it pretty easy to, dial in the tone that you need. Number 3 are the 3 leftmost knobs. These control the equalizer. Leftmost is low, the middle one is mid, and then the right of those 3 are the high settings. Now, for number 4, onto the second row of buttons, you've got your vibrato and chorus controls and your percussion controls. So left to right, we have upper on-off. Next is lower manual on-off. The third button is the chorus vibrato selector. This cycles through the list the same way the distortion knob does. The fourth button doesn't do anything. That wraps it up for the vibrato chorus settings. Next, after those 3 buttons, there's the one that doesn't do anything, and then we have the remaining 4 buttons on this row. They are the percussion in the same order that they are on the screen. On and off, then there's the volume switch, then there's the tone switch, then there's the harmonic switch. Now, number 5 is the drawbars. The drawbars move in the same direction as on the screen, so push them up if you want less drawbars, pull them out if you want more. Now, I have included an option in the scripter plugin that lets you decide if you want to have the drawbars jump when you move a fader or if you want to wait until the fader on the Kronos matches the on-screen position of the drawbar. Now, why did I add this feature? Because presets. Number 6. The C2 octave, that's the octave right below the faders and knobs and buttons on the Kronos. They control which preset gets used. So you might notice that the transition between presets isn't smooth and there might be some clicks and whatnot. So check that out. Here, I'll just switch through them. That's just something that they never fixed in the plugin. So to help out with this, when you move some faders after selecting a preset, you can choose if the faders jump to the position they're in on the Kronos, or if the faders don't start moving until the Kronos' faders match the position of the drawbars in the plugin. Personally, after I added this latching feature, I went with the jump setting anyway because the drawbar transitions didn't really bother me. Anyway, feel free to decide for yourself. It's there. It doesn't matter if it's not going to hurt anything if you don't use it and you just leave it on jump. Jump is the default setting. Number 7, and this is the big one. This is upper and lower manual toggle. So, all right, here is how this works. You press the upper leftmost button below knob number 1 to toggle between the upper manual and the lower manual. When the button is lit, the upper manual is engaged. All of the drawbars and presets are routed to the correct manual, which is awesome. All right, so that covers all the features. Let me just demo real quick how that manual button works. All right, cool. All right, now how do we go about using this? Because setting up the Kronos manually to talk to Logic is a pain in the ass and tedious to do it every session. So this is how I have addressed that problem. I am sending out for free a Logic X session where all you have to do is import the two tracks into your session. Then move the playhead to the beginning of the session and press play. All of the necessary settings are transferred to the Kronos. Now, to do this, I have to overwrite some settings on your Kronos. So I'm storing the external MIDI setup at slot 127, which is the last slot on the Kronos. If you use external MIDI setups with the Kronos with any of your productions or whatever, hopefully you aren't using all 128 of them and have this last slot free. If not, then you're going to lose number 127. So that's awesome. It's super easy to use. Yeah, literally all you have to do is just import these two tracks into your session, press play, wait for those MIDI regions to transfer to the Kronos so the Kronos gets set up correctly. And then that's it. You can just select the B3 track and go nuts on the Kronos controlling it. All right, so I am also including a graphical map showing the layout of the controls on the Kronos because it's just easier to, if you have like a visual guide to see what, how things get laid out, it just makes it easier to use something. So that about covers everything that this thing can do. I just want to mention a couple things about stuff that it doesn't do that I had hoped I would be able to implement, but unfortunately was not able to. So number 1, I have to use smart controls to get a few of the controls that work. If you dig into the manual for the vintage B3, you'll see that it says that the percussion time and volume are already mapped to a CC value for some of the hardware controllers in there. But they are not, and this is very annoying because smart controls are really just a shortcut way of assigning CC messages to control surface commands. And unfortunately, that means if you assign CC1 to control something like reverb level, if you don't have the channel strip and plugin assigned to that message selected, your CC messages will not make it into any other plugin in the session. I've been stuck by that before. I was like, man, why aren't any of my sustain pedal messages, going to this plugin? And it turns out I had accidentally mapped, for whatever reason, I had turned on quick learn, automation quick learn or whatever, and I had assigned the sustain pedal to like turning a knob in Omnisphere or something, and I couldn't figure it out for like a day. It was the worst situation ever. So I have tried to keep the smart controls to a minimum for this very reason. And then I also assigned them to CC messages that I didn't think anybody would use, like CC 40, 41, that kind of stuff. Number 2, I wanted to set it up such that the left 2 or 3 knobs did all the work, and when you toggled, and then you could just toggle which parameter the knobs were affecting via the buttons. For example, the top row of the buttons could be togglers for reverb, EQ, the wah-wah, the distortion. You press the second button in, and now the 3 knobs control the EQ. You press the 4th button in, and now the 3 knobs control distortion, type, tone, and drive. That would have been awesome. But that'll never happen because Logic won't let you control automation parameters from Scripter, even though there is a fader object in the scripting language, which appears to be the replacement for the environment's fader object. If you've ever messed around with environment, you know that you can do almost anything you want to any parameter in Logic, but you gotta like really know your stuff to make any headway in that thing. And it's just a disaster if you want to try to share a session that involves that stuff. So here's hoping that they actually implement that in the next update of Logic. Finally, let me see. When you press play in Logic and all of the settings are transferred to the Kronos, the button LED states are not transferred over. And for whatever reason, I can't get my Kronos and Logic to play nice when it comes to sending a patch dump from Logic back into the Kronos. And it's really frustrating because that would have made it extremely easy to just say, here's this Logic session, just press play, it'll automatically write the correct patch to memory. But that's not how it works. So what I've done instead is in the actual graphic that I'm including, you'll notice some of those buttons are yellow, and that's just to show you that in their default state, they are enabled. They are lit up. So, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's awesome. I hope some of you find this useful. It's a very, very playable way to control the Vintage B3, and it's free. You don't have to do anything. There's no cost. Just go click on the link and download it. So as always, thanks for checking out my channel. Thanks for checking out Cordy. Thanks for checking out all my other musical projects. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. I will put links in the description to download this, and I'll probably add some cards or some annotation you can click on to grab it. Yeah. All right. Thanks again.